Ba 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 bum. Do 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 do. Yo yo yo! It's the Watches Review Show. I am Watches Review, and today I'm bringing you a very special look at the Marvel Legends Wave 10 build figure Sentinel for a very special session 100. Now, in case you're wondering what a session is, you know the answer in 3, 2, 1, go! I hope that was as informative for you as it was for me. Now, I consider Sentinel to be Toy Biz's magnum opus, which basically means is the dopest figure they ever made. Do people still use dopest? Yeah, I'm still using dopest. I'm going with that. Because, let's face it, this is one of those figures that could appeal even to non-collectors. This is the figure that happened to really bring me back into the fold. Got me collecting, got me buying again, because, you know, this is just damn cool. It's incredible. At about 15 inches, Sentinel's also enormous. Here he is next to first appearance Spider-Man, who's barely up to his kneecap. This is also one of the reasons why I started getting into the Marvel Universe line, because their figures scale against him and make him look even bigger. This is Iron Man from Wave 3 of Marvel Universe. And here is the Thing from the Marvel Legends Showdown line. Also looks outright tiny. By the way, if you're thinking of picking this guy up, just be aware that there's kind of a semi-common defect with him at around the hip joints. Some of them don't really go in all the way, so it just like kind of, I don't know if it's a jam or something, but it's a semi-frequent problem. A lot of people have complained about it. I had that same issue with this, but then I just really forced the joint and then it snapped in place, and I haven't had any trouble since. It'll go with full range, full back. I mean, maybe that's all it takes. Also, the really cool thing too about Sentinels is you can just pull off the Build-A-Figure pieces, and then, you know, you have a battle-damaged Sentinel, which is cool for dioramas or displays or whatever you call them. Also, if you happen to buy the whole wave, you kind of do have an out, because both Mystique and Omega Red have the same BAF piece, which is the torso region here, and because the problem's really located with this part, you can just try it with both legs on the figure before you put this piece in, because this one's hard to remove. And then, you know, just use the one that works better. Each arm piece comes with a tendril similar to the same ones Omega Red uses. Actually, they probably are the same one Omega Red uses. For the purposes of simplicity, I just leave these in, one of them, and then just display the one that has the tendrils out, and then this one's like my blasting one, because it's a pain in the ass to get these tendrils back in, getting them to really stick if you ever take them out. One of the coolest things, though, is that everything above the waist on this figure pretty much has insane articulation. We have fully articulate, or actually individually articulated fingers, including an individually articulated thumb. The wrist will swivel, and then it's like kind of ball jointed and has a really great range of motion. Single joint elbow, actually double joint elbow, sorry, because it's got this little thing blocking it. And then this swivels, as you can see, because it's currently off. Normal range of motion on the ball jointed arm. The little clicking noise is, you know, a little mechanism to keep things in place, because, you know, the parts are pretty heavy. Head has a good range of motion. It can't go 360, or at least I've never got to go 360, but it goes up and down a little bit, which is good for basically a potato head. He can rotate 360 degrees around, either through the upper part of the torso or actually even the lower torso, which is a cool touch. So no matter how you pose him, you get that additional level of articulation. And he also can crouch down a lot, just because you have kind of a, well, I wouldn't call it a ball jointed area, but it's got like the same range of motion for both up here and down here. So, and often because, you know, very few things are as big as a Sentinel, he will kind of be crouching down to do stuff. The legs I don't like as much, because you have this kind of ball joint here where you actually have to rotate the ball joint around if you want him to kick out. No, I hadn't really tried to move it like that. I mean, I assume it will, because it does for most of the other Marvel Legends, but it might not. At any rate, you wouldn't really have him kick out too often. I mean, occasionally, like, you might have a landing pose where you'd want to be in kind of a kneeling position, but that's kind of rare. Double jointed knee, but again, there's really no call for it because there aren't many poses that you can get him into that you'd really use that for. There is a tiny amount of it feels like there's articulation on the foot, but it just kind of always swings back, so I mean it's not really good for anything. The paint app is incredible. It has a really metallic look and appearance, in part because, you know, it's a mix of blues and then silvers and blacks. So it kind of has a really worn look, like this robot's been out there, he's been fighting and so forth. Now the purple is likewise. Because of the way that they applied the paint, there is a good deal of variation between figures. So like, if you're looking between two of them, you'll notice that some areas they'll have darker portions, some won't, which is not only acceptable, but it's preferable if you're building a Sentinel army. So it was a great idea, intentional or not. The amount of design and detail that went to the sculpt is also incredible. You'll notice all this patterning here in the back, all the cords, wires, so forth. Now, these do kind of like scrape or they get random paint defects somehow. I mean, that's like probably the one downside. I think, like, because I bought both these guys online, part of it was probably just contamination between the coils and then the figure itself, because the paint scrapes off really easily on these tendrils. The head sculpt is one of my favorite things about this figure. It's just a incredibly wicked looking design, and the paint job really complements it. I also like the fact that they opted for this kind of like a little firing sequence for the palms. So if you have the tendrils in, you really can't see it, but if not, it looks like he's on the attack. This arm's a little weak, but this one does it better. Also, they have the same pattern on the boots for the flying things. It would be nice if they also included some little rocket fire effects, but you can probably make those on your own easily enough. As for the tendrils, you know, they're just basically pipe cleaner with plastic around them, or rubber. They'll change shape, but the more often you do it, the more that you have a kind of, you know, stretched out pattern. Also, the more you twist them and wind them, the more they'll slide when you're trying to position them. However, I can get smaller figures to hold on to these. It's just, a lot of the figures you can't really have a pose where these things are able to hold them. Like I said earlier, the Sentinel is definitely one of the coolest Build-A-Figures to come out thus far. And you know, it's really something you'd want more than one of. Beyond that, at this point, this is probably my favorite Marvel figure. And words really can't do this figure justice. You really have to see it in person to appreciate the size, the immensity of scale, and just the entire design. That, or you can just look at a ton of high-resolution photographs, which kind of do the job sort of well. Until next time, folks.